He's saying it's a fun madhouse, this place.
Ghosty fam, Amy here. Welcome to The Activity Continues, a podcast where three soul friends talk about all things paranormal. Ghosts, hauntings, psychics, movies and TV shows, especially The Dead Files, and other spooky and spooky adjacent things. We also like to interview people in the paranormal community, as well as past Dead Files clients and other interesting people. Sometimes we even tell your stories. I hope you enjoy the show. 2, 1. Hello. And welcome. Thank you for joining us again. We are going to be recapping another episode of The Dead Files. This one is the last one in our spring break series, which is why we are in our sunglasses. And I had to grab a loud shirt from Greg's closet because apparently I threw all mine away or put them away or something. And this one takes place in the Big Easy. And we have thoughts, which we will get to. But Megan chose this one, and so I'll let her tell you what led her to select it.
I selected it because I've been to New Orleans. And for everybody listening in New Orleans, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to say it right. I can't make my mouth move the way that it's supposed to move. And so it's no disrespect to the city. It's me. I cannot do it. But I went there. I had so much fun. I went to a Saints game, sports, football, and it was really a lot of fun. And so I just thought, it's a really good spring break place. So it fit quite well into our theme.
Yeah.
AP, what are we warning the people about today?
Absolutely. Got a few different things here today, but how this also does really fit into spring break, it is like Mardi Gras capital. And that usually is kind of towards the kickoff of spring break season, even though it's Fat Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, Lent, whatever all want to celebrate. But now the deep stuff. So the content warning overall for the show and things we'll probably talk about is there is suicide, domestic violence, Hurricane Katrina. A lot of stuff is brought up with that. And then depending on where we get in the episode, mental health, insanity. Again, some choice phrases from our lovable homicide detective.
I know a couple of times I was like, really, Steven?
Yeah.
Steven.
And this wasn't that long ago. This would have been filmed in probably 2018 or early 2019.
Yeah. It was 2018 because something Alec or Eddie said about 3 years, and they bought it in 2015.
Yes.
So it was filmed in 2018. So, we're going to do it.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Housekeeping.
All right, let's see if I can read this. Okay, so in the coming weeks, forgive me if you're watching me and I'm sitting here funny. I can't read with my sunglasses on. In the coming
you look
weeks,
like the most beautiful butterfly.
My glasses are big enough to be wings. We are going to be sitting down with Michelle and Krista from last week's episode. Remember, I said I was telling everybody I was trying to be cagey, and I was like, so we are going to be talking to some clients, and I didn't want to say the people we're talking about right now because I wasn't 100% sure that it was going to happen, and we have scheduled it, and they have listened to that episode. I gave them private links to listen to that episode, watch the video actually. And Michelle wrote me back and she's like, oh my God, we were laughing so hard. We were having such a good time. So we're going to have a blast and blah, blah, blah. So it'll be fun. And then, I guess that's it. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then we are ready to jump in. Megan, would you like to do the overview?
Yeah, and I wrote it not 5 minutes before we started. So
that's not true.
It isn't. I wrote it a long time ago.
I know. I
like 3 p.m.
I know.
She meant that she didn't write it as we were getting on
Like the
has
last
happened
time?
in the
last time.
past.
I thought you said you did write it
Oh, no.
3 minutes ago. And I'm
Dang
like,
it.
no, you didn't.
I wrote
Okay.
it literally while I was in another meeting today. So
Well, it's very well written. I liked it. It was very good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, located in the heart of New Orleans, Vessel has a unique history. Built in 1914, the building ran as a Lutheran church for 50 years. In 1977, the prestigious family, the Galatoris, purchased it and turned it into a restaurant. The restaurant was very successful for a number of years. However, eventually the popularity waned, and when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, the restaurant was unable to recover and closed. Alec and his business partner Eddie bought Vessel in 2000. What? Ooh. Alec and his business. I said it really weird.
Oh,
Alec and his business partner Eddie bought Vessel in 2015 sight unseen. Alec stated to Steve he was drawn to the building and couldn't explain why. Since moving in, they have had paranormal experiences consistently and also have been getting more and more violent. From shadow figures and cold spots to employees getting pushed and dishes flying at the chef, Alec and Eddie are now concerned for the safety of themselves, their employees, and the customer. While researching, Steve uncovers a wealthy woman in history who struggles to protect her family fortune from her greedy father-in-law and a son who murdered his father in the 1940s. With all this history and activity, Amy struggles through the walk. Emotions run high from spirits and residual energies left behind. Can Alec and Eddie protect their employees and their customers, or will history claim the vessel? Stay tuned to see if the activity continues.
I was going to say, your kitty's trying to join, isn't he?
Marcy.
The amount of living creatures that need my attention constantly is just too much.
Add 4 dogs to that.
I can't. All right, so we're season 11, episode 7, Deadly Vessel. Original air date August 8th, 2019. So
I have the 22nd from, I have August 22nd, and that was from the On Demand.
oh, I got it from the dead files. I got it from the dead files.
Yeah.
I got it from Discovery.
Steve told me.
Steve said this nutbag aired August 27th.
I noticed that last week too. Amy, you had said the date, and I was like, that's not the date I have. And
Really?
I'm just pulling them off of On Demand. So sometime in
at
August of
around then.
2019.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I said the 2nd and it was the 3rd or something like that. But so I think I edited out what I said. I don't know. I don't remember.
All
I
right,
remember
so
that it
sometime
was slightly different.
in August of 2019.
Yeah.
So we have Alec, who bought an old church and turned it into a restaurant, to which my initial reaction was, holy shit, there's going to be a lot of shit going on there.
Oh, yeah.
See, but that's not super uncommon for like a lot of places. There's a lot of old churches that are turned into houses or restaurants
No
or
way.
other businesses. Yeah.
I mean, I believe it, but you could never convince me to live in that.
Oh,
Why
really?
not?
Oh, I would. Churches
No.
are cool. They're cool buildings.
There'd be so many ghosts.
Why?
Because think of all the people who've died there. Their
All
bodies
the people
have
who
been
died in
there.
the church.
Yeah. When they have funerals, they have bodies in the church.
Yeah, but they
Gross.
don't
People
die.
didn't die in the
They didn't
church.
die
You
in the
don't
church.
know their lives.
I mean,
Well, I
it's
hope
not
they
like,
were not alive when they started the funeral.
it's not like what they did in The Patriot when they locked everybody in the church and lit it on fire.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of, good segue. So Zoe, our patron, did my tarot reading.
Yes.
Oh my God. You guys, you need to get a tarot reading done by her. But then before that, and we can cut this, but I just wanted
Unless
to
you don't want it.
No, I don't care. So she messaged me the day after we recorded last week and was like, I have a message for you. Like, the spirits are trying to get to you. So she had this whole message for me. All right, so we're one sentence in, starting in strong. So Amy arrives and says there's so much chaos, lots of people in the ground, and people being killed. So immediately there's just a lot happening for Amy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put, oh, goody. Great. We got a grab bag.
Yeah. I will say I did feel bad for Amy during this walk because she
Mhm.
really struggled a lot.
She did. Yeah, she really did.
So then we cut to Steve and Alec. Alec says the paranormal activity is out of control. concerned about his business, but also concerned about the safety of employees and customers. And this is when we kind of go into the history. Built in 1914, operated as a Lutheran church until it was bought and turned into a restaurant in 1970. And so he said the place called to him and they bought it sight unseen in 2015, which sounds very, very rash, especially given the fact that, as we learn later, they were in one of the worst areas for flooding in Hurricane Katrina. So to buy it sight unseen.
And that was like, so I put down in here, there's other episodes that Amy talks about when people are drawn to locations. But then when Amy, you and I shared some articles back and forth, I know of, he was in California and was like, I need to get a place in Louisiana. So they called up a real estate agent. So it wasn't like he visited the place and was like, woke up and was like, I need to have this place. It was,
I need a
at least
place.
From the article, it was, I need to go to this area and I need a place here. Like,
got it.
And in the article, he says he's a psychic medium, which is never touched on in the show, which may be the first time that Amy has never.
Unless it was cut.
It was cut, or unless she didn't feel that and he is just tooting his own horn.
Yeah, that could be.
That's where I was going with it. I'm like, this might be the first time that somebody has abilities that, but also if he lives in California, how often is he there?
Yeah.
Right.
So when they mentioned having like 4 or 5 other restaurants.
Yeah, they did.
I thought they were all in the area.
That's what I thought too.
It wasn't until afterwards that I looked up and they're all in California. And then they just had this one random one in Louisiana.
That is
interesting.
Weird.
Yeah.
When he said that, when Steve asked him, why would you do that? Buy it sight unseen? And he said, it just called to me. And I was like, oh man, is this going to be another one of those with that poor Michael at the tattoo parlor? That, yeah.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
But
spoiler.
This guy, I don't know, like he reminds me of an actor.
Yeah, he reminded me of somebody too. But
he reminds me of somebody, but I think the way that he just came across on some of it maybe was just making sure that we get the good story out there for, sorry, I just hit my mic. Enjoy that later. It makes for the good story, the drama, get people into the restaurant because it's newer.
Haunted. Yeah. He said as soon as he walked in, he turned to his partner, Eddie, and said, I think we made a mistake. And they say partner, but then later they say business partner. So I don't know what the relationship is, but I'm just going to assume business partner because I don't want to assume anything.
Right. That's what they said. And I kind of felt like they were partners. And after looking at some of the articles and stuff that I've seen about them, I think they might be partners, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. So Steve then asks if he regrets buying it. And he says, many days I regret, yes. So then they ask about what types of activities going on. And he said, experience the feeling of being watched, objects flying through the air, hear disembodied voices, see shadow figures, people being touched. And this one, bad luck. And I'm like,
I said, oh, Murphy's Law.
Yeah. And then Alex says, if anything can go wrong, it does.
Yep.
The AC blew, the fridge, which was 2 years old, blew.
And this is where my brain was like, okay, those are interesting, but also you bought a building that sat underwater that probably has electrical issues.
Yep.
And
sight
shortages.
unseen.
It was sight unseen. Maybe the wiring has been replaced or parts of it. Usually, in some of the articles that I read that there were structural foundation issues and quote, they didn't know how it was still standing.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That sounds like a really safe place to rebuild on. But I also put, you're in a very moisture rich environment, flooding or no flooding. And there are things that could go into, because he talked about the tables getting warped. Well, I looked at the tables that were out on the patio. Didn't look like the patio tables that we see up here in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also my in-laws, they just bought a new fridge 2 months ago. It's already broken. It just stopped working. So that wasn't even 6 months old and it stopped.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
just because you're, and again, it could happen, but this is not what
It's not
I would
solid
consider
evidence.
paranormal. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and when Steve said, why do you think this is paranormal? And my notes I wrote, because it's literally the only
Explanation.
Yep.
Right. Right.
And this is where we learn that he has 4 other restaurants and none of them
Mhm.
have any issues, but we
Mhm.
don't
But-
know that they are located in California at this point in time.
Exactly. And as AP just pointed out, they're all in California, a much, much different climate, different
drier.
humidity,
Mhm.
temperature.
Mhm.
There's no hurricanes.
Mhm.
I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
And what I have here is that he just can't let it go, which
Mhm.
then also makes you like there's a couple of these cliche terms that have been used in previous episodes.
Mhm.
You know, was that a like, here you should say something like this because this will tell the drama, or is that something he's saying? And I wrote, it's a labor of love or
Yes.
passion, or
And-
underwater on, or they're underwater on it and they won't make a profit off of selling it. It is
Mm.
a unique, so there's lots of other reasons that
Mhm.
could be that he's just not letting it go because it
Mhm.
is a unique, cool thing.
I didn't
It is
get
cool. It's really pretty inside.
it is. It's
Mhm.
gorgeous. I mean, it's a beautiful building. But when he said labor of love and passion, I'm like, I don't see that. And again, maybe it was cut, but what labor of love and passion are you talking about? To me, it sounds like a lot of projects. The fridge broke. The AC broke.
Mhm.
Especially for 2 guys that live in LA and probably have to
Yeah.
go out there and deal with it.
Well, and it's not like this is it's a little higher end restaurant. So it's
Mhm.
not like it's
Expensive.
it's not like it's a restaurant that, in some cases where they're offering free meals for those, that are
Yep.
without homes
Mhm.
or down on their luck sort of thing.
This
And-
isn't
and
a
that's
place
not-
that
and
you
that's
would
not a
go
bad
to.
thing,
No,
but-
it's not. But it's just the type of venue it is.
Mhm. So, and then
So-
he says, we're not leaving. They have to
Mhm.
leave us alone. And I just said, good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said,
was-
we got a fighter.
I just about, we got a fighter on our hands. Like, oh my God, that never happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so then we cut back to Amy and she's out on the patio and she says there's a lot of dead people running around you. She said she can't breathe. She said she
Mhm.
can't catch her breath. So the living would feel this. And she said some people might feel or experience a panic attack because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to Steve and Alec on the patio and Steve's asking him what experiences he has. And he said every time he's out here, he feels like someone's watching him. Dude, you're on a patio,
I
like
just
in a
said-
city.
There
way he
probably are
said it-
people watching you.
The way he said it, all I could think of is every move you make.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
I'll
I'm like,
be
I have that every day
watching.
with my labs.
But like it's not like you're in a fucking closet where you're on a patio. Like the street is right there.
Yeah.
There's going to be people watching you.
Well, and then as we're out on the patio, all he does is start talking about his office.
Hmm.
Yeah.
About how he's in the office and he'll feel something touching the back of his neck,
I want
like a
to,
light brush of a hand.
right. I want to bring this up because Amy, you probably did this too, but I looked at your notes, but I didn't see it, but maybe you did this too, but they showed the office.
Mhm.
There is a in window air
AC
conditioner would be blowing directly on his face
Oh my
where he's sitting
God.
at his desk. And I wasn't sure that was his desk, but I looked at a different video that was linked through the
Mhm.
rabbit hole that I went down and found another group that did a paranormal investigation at this place. And they showed a picture of both Eddie and Alex sitting at their desks. Well, actually, at Eddie sitting at his desk and Eddie's at the other desk, which means that this desk next to the AC is Alex's desk.
Yeah, I did see that. The other thing I caught, and because I don't put the captions on, but I swear it kept saying.
How do you do that?
How do
you
Amy and I were
function?
talking about that today. I
it's
can't
just the way
function
my
without
brain
him.
works. I would get so distracted reading it that I wouldn't pay attention to what
I
else is actually
cannot
going on. But-
John is the same way and he can't watch shows and I'm just like, how
Ugh,
do you do this? How
No.
do you know what they're saying?
Different
No.
brains. Different brains. But one of the things, I swear it sounded like he kept saying a wish of cold air.
yes. That's how the captions put it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because later on in the reveal, he says a whisk of cold air.
Yep.
But I was like, a wish of cold air?
No,
I don't know that I've ever heard it like that. I've heard
I
it as like a
haven't either.
wisp or
Yeah.
a whisk or
Yeah.
a whoosh.
A whoosh.
I
yeah.
put a whoosh.
Yeah, he said wish, and I rewound it and turned on the captions again because I have to turn the captions off in order to take the screenshots
Oh,
if I don't want the words in there, but sometimes I do want the words in there. But anyway, so I had to turn them off and then wait for it to refresh and then rewind, and then I looked at it like 3 times and it said wish, and so I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just a closed caption.
And he said it
people.
like 3 times, I swear. And I was just like, and I did rewind a couple. Is that what he said? Maybe it's just his accent I'm picking up or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then again, he says, they don't want us here. They want us gone. Really?
Yeah. Whatever is there
Thanks,
doesn't want
Sherlock.
them there. Well,
Yeah.
you're in a very, very active part of the country. There's
Yeah.
a lot of history
there's
there.
a lot of ghosts there.
And not
And
only
ghosts and different religions, different spiritual beliefs there. It's
And
going to be a
deaths that
hotbed of
happened
activity.
very quickly due to hurricanes of different
Mhm.
sorts, different natural disasters.
Mhm.
And we've seen this in other areas too. Like there was the tsunami that happened in Japan that is on Unsolved Mysteries because there's
Yes.
a lot of
Mhm.
That was a good
notes.
episode.
It is.
Mhm.
It's
The newer
heavy.
Unsolved Mysteries
Yes.
on Netflix. Yeah, it
is.
was
Yeah, the
heavy though.
tsunami
Like
happened in like
11 or
20 teens.
12?
Yeah, somewhere in there. But
I think 2012.
somewhere in the
I'll
early
look it up.
teens.
Yeah.
But the big part is that there's so many spirits that are stuck doing their same routine because it
Yes.
happened so quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because a tsunami,
2011.
Yep, tsunami happens from an earthquake in the ocean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it sent a giant wave
Mhm.
that overtook a part of it, and that's when the
is
nuclear reactors were. Yep.
I don't even know what I would do if I was sitting there and I looked up, and because by the time you see it, there's no time.
Yeah,
There's
to
not
do
much you can do.
Yeah, it's done by then, or you're done by then. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
we know that there's a hotbed of activity
Mhm.
because there is so much emotion in
Yes.
that area. And
Yes.
we know water and stone and other things.
Mhm.
Well, we don't know, but we are assumed that those do play a factor into holding on to energies as well,
Mhm.
Yeah.
amplifying them.
So then we're back to Amy, and she sees a dead woman wearing a red wig and all red. She said she does not like men. And I'm like, same girl. She said she's very physical. She said she hugged Amy. Amy said she hugged her, and that sent ice cold chills through her whole body. And she said the woman is surrounded by the color red. She
Like
said
an aura.
engulfed in red like an aura, basically a type of hell.
Mm-hmm. I noted that when they show Amy talking about this, she's reading from her book. So this must have this when the woman hugged her and stuff, that when she first saw the woman, that must have happened when she opened up
Before. Yeah.
off
Mhm.
site because she was reading it from
Mhm.
her book.
She
Mhm.
talks about the weird shadow things with her. She says it's chaos and destruction, which then I put, is this a new band name with the hit Woman in Red? Because
Yeah.
Obviously.
I was snarky when I was watching this, apparently. And then I also was like, oh, the ice cold chills must have felt good in the hot and humid air.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know. Give me a break.
It's a dry heat. So now we're in the kitchen with Alec and Steve, and not
Someone's in the
Dinah.
kitchen with
Not
Alec.
Dinah. She's in the other
Steve.
kitchen. Alec has seen a misty figure outside the doors. He said he has an outline of a monk, which I was like, what does that even look like?
Okay, to me, this is a Lutheran church, so I had to look up what the definition of a monk is. Because yes, I was also, why are we thinking
Like,
it's a monk?
exactly. Especially if it's the outline. Like,
Yep.
that doesn't make any sense to
I
me.
mean, I just picture it would be a bald guy with a robe on,
Yeah,
Right.
so
And like
looking
kind of
up-
a heftier dude. Like
which
Friar
doesn't sound
Tuck.
like
Yeah,
the person
so this
that
wasn't
this ends up
this wasn't a
being.
monastery. This was a
Yeah.
Lutheran church.
Mhm.
So monks in Christian religions are more commonly present in the Catholic sect,
Really?
but they're not all over. But they can be in other
I
places.
didn't know that.
But from the Oxford Dictionary, a member of a religious community of men typically living under vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Because most in the Catholic Church, the priests and everything have to be celibate, chastity,
Right.
the chastity and everything like that. Whereas in other sects of Christianity, they can be married, they can have families and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So
There's an episode of the Golden Girls where Dorothy wants to date a priest, and she doesn't know he's a priest. God, it's so funny. Oh my God, he's a priest.
But yeah, I really question the only reason I feel like he's just saying it's a monk is because it's a church.
Mhm.
It's an old
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
That was the feeling I got because I'm
Yeah,
like,
because but I
you're
mean
just seeing
even
an
then,
outline of something. You're seeing a person in a robe.
wouldn't you
Yeah.
if that's the case, then I would have gone to like a father or like a pastor
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because pastors wear robes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And we have
Anyway, it turns out not to be a monk or a
No.
pastor or
a
any of
pastor
those
or
things.
anything.
Yeah.
So
It turns out to be a fancy pants cousin husband, but we'll get there.
gross.
father-in-law.
Alec came in one morning and all the burners
Sorry,
on the
Katrina.
stove were on. Also, the stove looked fucking gross. There were dirty pots covered, like stacked on it.
If
Looked
you
like
like to eat out in restaurants, never go into a restaurant kitchen.
But did the production crew set it up that way? Remember when we were
Probably. They
talking to
probably
Laura?
messed it
Probably,
up.
but like, why would you want it to? It looked so unappealing.
But
I guarantee you that it is not that way at the end of the night because
No.
any chef worth his or her or their or none salt would clean it. But it was
yeah,
gross.
if you leave
guys,
it for the next day, people get pissed. But I
because
just think
it
back to
sets
when
all night.
Yeah, I just think
Gross.
back to when Laura was telling us like that they opened her closets and
Mhm.
Yes.
they moved the clothes around and stuff. I feel like they're like, this doesn't look like an active kitchen. Let's make it look like an active kitchen.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't look like an active kitchen if you're off hours.
Megan, we know that.
I know, but I'm just, it's so gross.
Yeah.
Ugh. So then Steve is like, what activity goes on in here? And he said, dishes fly off the rack.
Steve,
There was,
people cook in here. That's what goes on.
that's what goes on, Steven. Nutbag.
You do have a rack of dishes in the middle of
Mhm.
the walkway, like area where everybody's moving
And like,
around and doing
if
stuff.
it's busy on a Friday, Saturday, I'm
Mhm.
sure people are going and dishes will fall off. So that's another not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Strong evidence.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if people are like, I saw it lift up and
Mhm.
fly across.
Mhm.
At one point, I can't remember where it was. Somebody talks about like things are flying in the air. And I'm like, how else do they fly?
If it's flying, it's probably in the air.
Though there was another one of these cliches that came in there. He goes, Alec says, we're a family. They're a
Yep.
family to us. We have to solve this problem. And I said, we're a family is so
No.
cliche for a workplace so that you don't have to give people a raise and pay them equally.
They're more than
Exactly.
family. They're more than family. They're
Yeah.
not just family.
Yeah. And as I don't know, maybe this is as good a time as any, I guess, to go into a little bit of this, but they have a reputation of not treating their staff very well.
Really?
I found a lot of dirt on this business. They have terrible Yelp reviews. And when
the one in Louisiana?
Mhm.
Really?
And when they write, when they get a bad review, Alec will respond. And
Great.
he's a real shitball about it.
Nice. Because God forbid they're doing anything wrong. It's not them.
Well,
Yeah.
they're not there, so it's not their fault.
Yeah. Well, it said there was one that said that because of the COVID outbreak, the owner was forcing their staff to come in while positive.
Oh,
Yep. And then I read a whole bunch of these reviews,
Oh man.
and I won't read you all of them, but one person said, in the pandemic's defense, Vessel sucked before it. And then it was all these people talking about how bad the food was. The mussels tasted like swamp water, and
Gross.
it was fraudulent to call it food.
I'm curious what other restaurants in the area, what their price point is, because I'm
Mhm.
feeling like this is out of place
It's really
for
expensive.
potentially for where they're at, especially when we talk about one of the hospitals later on when
Yeah.
Amy, like some stuff with Amy. One of those was only 2 miles down the road, and it was, took everybody in and
Yeah.
often had more of like the pro bono. I
Mhm.
don't know what you want to call it for hospital, but more cases that were
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
covered at a different rate.
Yeah. I looked at their menu. I looked at their prices. I looked at their reviews. And then if you look at the pictures of the restaurant, both on the show and pictures they have now, they have in the middle of the room is a big, long communal table. And you sit at it on a little bar stool with no back and with people you don't know and pay $29 for an appetizer. So
Oh, yeah.
I can see why people complain if the food is not
Well,
completely
yeah,
excellent.
And the thing is, like, how do you have bad seafood when the ocean is right fucking there?
We
I
have
know.
good seafood in Minnesota,
And
I
in
know.
damn
Minnesota.
country.
We have good sushi places even.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
wouldn't
and
know,
even
but
like at those communal tables, you see those at like breweries or
Mhm.
wineries,
Yes,
places where
yes.
you're getting
Or
finger
punch
food
pizza.
casual.
Yeah.
or food truck. You're not.
If I'm
you
paying
know,
$30 an appetizer, I don't want to sit next to Billy Bob and Sally Sue over here. Like,
Yeah.
or it's at least told like on the website, like, hey, we're we're a family establishment, but in some things, and I saw one or two reviews where most places in the area are dog friendly on the patio, and so they made a reservation, they sat on the patio and then
Mhm.
got yelled at to leave because it would cause them to get a fine or whatever. And it
Oh, health
totally
department.
real, totally
Mhm.
legit. But they're like, we didn't see anything that said they're not dog friendly on the website. Like, that's also human, your error too. If you're not seeing it on the website, then you call them.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
your problem there. But
I would never bring my dog somewhere that I hadn't already been there, where other people had brought their dogs and had had a problem. But
They have 12 unique glasses in which to serve your drink.
yeah, that's one
Oh,
of
that's
their
After all, the
one
This
of
is
the reasons
finest.
why
another
they
thing.
call it a vessel.
And it says all over it that it is a cocktail bar, right? That it's a lounge, restaurant, cocktail bar. Somebody complained that they came in and they wanted to just have drinks, and so they went up to the bar and they were told to leave. They were kicked out. And so then they complained about it. So then Alec responds to them. This is in April of 2021. We're sorry about what happened and the misunderstanding. We are a restaurant, not a bar. And with limited capacity and no bar seating, we cannot take up tables for just drinks during dinner service. Why does it say
Yeah.
bar all over your website? I
Yeah,
mean, that was
yeah.
then, this is now, I'm sure. But even at height pandemic time, which you probably shouldn't be open anyway, and they probably took away their bar seating because most
Mhm.
bars, even in Minneapolis, we did that too. You
Yep.
couldn't sit at
Mhm.
the bar anymore. But then don't tell people who called ahead that they can come in with 12 people and have drinks
Yeah.
if they can't do that.
And like I tend to look at reviews and try to take them with a grain of salt
Yeah.
because people are salty
Yeah.
when they're writing them usually. Like one of them was we couldn't even order food because the kitchen was closing. I'm like, okay, what the fuck time
Okay,
did you get there?
exactly,
Like,
yeah.
come on.
And then
That
and then
is-
somebody replied and said, you got there at 8:30 and we close at 9.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you didn't
there
have a
you go.
reservation.
Yeah. So some of that's just entitlement because I did see most of the responses I saw came from their general manager and
Yeah.
not from.
Mhm.
Yeah. I had to
I
dig
didn't
pretty
dig that
far
far
down.
back.
I had to dig pretty far back to find the ones that were responses from Alec. And then he blamed the government because he said the reason he didn't have good staff, because a lot of the people were complaining about the service. The reason he didn't have good staff is that nobody wanted to work there because they wanted to stay home and collect their unemployment check.
Oh,
And
so
so it's
he
the government's
supports.
fault.
So he
Mhm.
supports the orange man, is what I would
So
assume.
this is why nobody wants to work for you, shitbag.
Well, it sounds like they don't
Because-
have a training program for
Yeah.
to
Right.
help set people off to a good
Right.
start.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So it's
yeah.
a shit show. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they still own it because this video I watched about the other investigation was only 4 months old and they were in it.
Really?
Mhm.
I mean, it
Anyway.
does look like a really cool place, and
It
apparently
does.
the
It looks really cool.
ceiling is modeled after like an old ship or like a ship's hull. So
Oh,
mhm.
cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful building.
It's another play on the term vessel. But
Yeah.
apparently the other term vessel that we have are the people.
It's a double entendre. All
Back to
right, so
Amy? Are we
back to
at
Amy. Where I don't know where we are.
That's where I
Um,
have. Is that where?
yeah.
Well, he
Yep.
says we've got to solve the problem, and I
They're
was like,
more than
maybe you
family.
should treat people better.
Yeah.
It will work for you.
So then we're back. The lady in red is really bad. She said she's physical. She punches, pulls
Mhm.
hair, anything to get them away. Amy thinks if she's severely threatened, she would be dangerous. And then
Me too.
Amy says she has shadow things with her, but they're not human. They never were human. She said they're destructive. They're like chaos and destruction, what AP already said.
Mhm.
And she said, so that's not good. To which I went, LOL, like, clearly. And she said the woman in red is saying she wants people to get out, and that's why she's doing what she's doing. So
And she
Alec
says, don't
wasn't
forget,
wrong.
if she's in a mood, it's not going to be a good day.
hmm But like any woman, if they're in a mood, is not going to be a good day. And whatever you do, don't ask him, is it your time of the month?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So now we go to Eddie, and Eddie kind of reminded me of Greg because he was very skeptic.
He was a skeptic at first.
At first, but Greg still remains skeptic. So that's where
I have another story, but I won't tell it now. I'll tell it at the end. But remind me to tell you about Greg being a skeptic, not a skeptic.
Got it.
All right.
Locked away for tomorrow when we remember it.
I'm writing it in our show notes.
Oh, okay.
In the script.
In the script? Thank you.
Yep. So Eddie was a skeptic, but after 3 years of seeing constant activity, he's a believer. He hasn't had any real experience. It's just been more like secondhand.
People telling him.
Yeah, he's like, my experiences are people telling me their experiences. I'm like,
well, that's not an experience then.
So not a paranormal one anyway.
That's what we call a conversation.
Yeah, that's what we call you relaying someone else's. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says something about there's things that can't be explained rationally. I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. Thinking through that, because I think that is a good case. There are some things that can't be explained that way.
Yep. He said a bartender said a beer can flew at him. No customers drinking that beer at the time. He said they have security camera and reviewed the footage. No indication that a customer had thrown anything.
So why was that beer out? They were saying it was an event, but that they had, like, if nobody was drinking it.
Oh, maybe somebody brought it in.
Or nobody had
it. Or maybe they left it if it was an event and,
they were basically saying that, like, no customer had been drinking that beer. So why was the beer out? Like, that was what I couldn't figure out. I was like, why was that one out then?
And if you have security camera and footage, wouldn't you see where it came from then?
Wouldn't you show it?
And wouldn't it have been shown on the show? Yeah. I have also a question about that with the patio.
Well, did you saw what was in the article about how they got to be on the Dead Files?
They sent the video of the patio to the Dead Files. So does that, the reason we didn't, because I saw it, it was in that other video. That other paranormal video.
Is that the video of the customer, the chair being pulled out from under her?
No. It's a video of the patio when they found something wet on the patio and they looked at the footage and there was a big orb that came down and that apparently that's the orb that's the video that they sent to the Dead Files in order to get on the show.
And they didn't
But I don't know why it didn't make it to the show.
Well, and then
unless somebody thought it was faked.
Well, then they said they were one of 20 stories selected out of 15,000.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So you're telling me some of these episodes we've seen and there was
out
that
other
many
people?
thousand others?
And especially as they got more and more submissions every year. So that means that Brittany won out over a whole lot more than 15,000, which is bullshit.
Ridiculous. But her dad wrote a book, Amy.
He wrote a book, you guys.
Got in.
She was possessed at 12, you guys. Or
and she doesn't know. She didn't remember writing that stuff.
No, it wasn't her handwriting. But she
anyways,
does black out.
Right.
Or Brittany. Just kidding. So then Eddie tells us that one employee was pulled backwards going down the stairs.
And Alec said the employee was pushed down the stairs.
Yeah.
Unless it was different employees. It could be different employees.
It could be, but you would think that we'd hear at least a little bit more consistent.
They're so dubious.
Well, if you were pushed down the stairs or pulled up the stairs, wouldn't you be telling both of your bosses?
I don't know. Maybe it got cut.
Well, and they also said that it was only women that got pushed down the stairs, which isn't true. Because when they talked to the employees, one of the men said he.
Yeah, it sounded like the men were having more of the big issues.
Yeah. It's all a contradiction.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to.
Eddie thinks they're cursed. Then he says they had a food critic come in and a water glass, quote, jumped off a tray onto the critic. Okay, so maybe, just hear me out as I joke and berate you two about being skeptics, but maybe something happened. I don't know if anybody, like if any of you have ever held a tray filled with water glasses, if you've been a waitress, but they're very hard to keep steady, especially if you have multiple drinks on it. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe the waiter or waitress carrying that just lost balance and the water fell on the person.
I've had a tray basically fall down my back.
I spilled water on a baby. in
No,
a car seat.
I was sitting at the table and the person was trying to do it, but then somebody bumped her tray.
Oh, it was a
Mm,
ghost.
The only explanation is
The only
paranormal.
explanation.
It was
The only.
absolutely paranormal.
Yeah,
And
I
she
spilled
wasn't upset at all.
I'm sure. The people whose baby I spilled water on were actually really nice about it.
Oh,
Did you
that's
say,
good.
well, this spot's really clean now?
At
Yeah.
least it wasn't wine.
Or like coffee or something.
Oh God,
Oh.
something hot.
So Eddie is hoping they can solve the problem and make it a safe place for employees, which
I did point out, though, that food critics can kind of be asshats at times.
Yes,
That's why everybody
they
has
can.
like panic attacks and anxiety attacks because
like they think that they're God's gift to food. And like, I'm sorry, but you're not. You're a person with a job.
Yeah. This is how I got in that rabbit hole. I was trying to find that review. And then he said it was on the radio, but I was still trying to figure out if it was like, if
Mhm.
there was any, if I could figure out who the critic was.
Yep.
And if it
Mhm.
was somebody big shot, like somebody I'd heard of, then I could see why they'd be super nervous. But I thought if I could figure out who it was, maybe it's someone who's an asshole and gives everybody bad reviews. But I didn't get that far because I got all swept up in
Yep.
how they run their business during COVID. Anyway,
Anywho,
we're back to Amy.
I'm back to Amy, and she sees a dead guy wandering around wearing a jester outfit, but fancier.
Fancier. And then she
Fancy
says, "It's a
jester.
fun house. It's a fun,
Fun
madhouse.
this place."
He's saying it's a fun madhouse, this place.
She
Great.
said she feels like the jester runs this place, like it's his, and he would be able to influence perceptual experiences, manipulating them to see or hear different things. And he said, or she said, he wants them to hear things that would embarrass or humiliate them. Like if he could embarrass them or humiliate someone, he's going to do it, which like
he's-
gross.
He's a bully and a
Yes.
bad parent.
He is
Yeah.
a bully and a bad. We'll get there.
Well, I put in like a bad parent that wants to like, be like, oh, remember that time when you were 5 and you did that stupid thing?
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah,
a-
yeah.
at
Here,
a
I'm
kid's
gonna whip
wedding
out
or
a
something.
picture.
Yep.
He's the type of parent that would throw their kid in the pool and say, "Here's your swimming lesson."
Yeah,
And that might be how my mom learned to swim.
that's how my parents. Yeah, that was back
So
in the day.
that was a
Oh my
How they did it back
God.
then.
generation.
That's
Yeah, they'd
giving
throw them
me
in the
angst.
lake. They'd throw them
Oh
off a
my
dock.
God. I can't, you guys.
I
I
know.
can't.
I know.
Mhm.
It's too much. Okay.
I also just said, great, creepy as hell because the jester is like the precursor to the clown, and I hate
Mhm.
clowns.
Yeah,
I mean, who likes clowns? I'm sure there are people,
There are people
but
who do.
there are
No,
people
thank
who
you.
are clowns.
I have not met them.
I like the people. I do not like the clown.
Hate
And
the
if you give
game,
me a
not the
clown
player.
doll, I will burn it and curse you.
So next we have Steve interviewing employees, and they don't have names.
No.
So man one says he had a big scruffy beard.
Mhm.
He'll be working and feels someone looking at him, turns around and no one's there.
Mhm.
So then we have woman one. She came in at 8 a.m. and the first aid kit was open and everything was thrown on the ground.
This is kind of like the Russian nesting dolls because Steve says each one is worse than the last.
That's right.
So they're just kind of like, well, let's open up this one and see what it is.
Yeah.
Mhm. Man two, he was the last person in the building and he saw a tall figure in a long blue robe and he ran away,
Mhm.
which like is the exact same response I would have. So
Yeah, he's like, I just bolted.
yeah, I'd be like, yeah, same. I quit. Nope, I
Mhm.
can't. Woman two, she was going upstairs, reaching for the handrail, and every time she felt like someone was pushing her hand away, get away. And she trips on the first step. Okay. I do that literally daily. So clearly I'm haunted.
I mean, how many times do you fall up the stairs and you look around to make sure nobody
Yes.
saw
Nobody
it?
saw. I know. I did that a lot.
I trip on yeah. So I don't buy it, woman too.
Fun fact that if stairs are off by like even like a half an inch,
Yes.
it will throw you off because
Yeah.
everybody's so used to them being a certain height
Mhm.
Yeah.
that if they're off by a little bit, you might just go tumbling.
Yeah. We had that in another episode, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think
It
so.
was
Yeah.
at a bar, I think.
Only explanation is paranormal.
The only.
Then we have woman three. She heard someone behind her and fell down the stairs. She was scared and embarrassed. I'm sorry, nothing about that is paranormal to me.
Well, you don't know
nothing
what
about
she
that.
heard and saw. Heard. heard or saw or
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, it's not solid evidence.
No, it's not. So we're back to Amy, and she said Jester Dude is making himself physically present. The living would experience this. He likes physically hurting people. And then she said something as simple as pulling a chair out from someone
Mhm.
so they fall on their ass, which we get to later on in the story. She said that would make them feel humiliated, which is what he wants. And she said he's getting more severe, doing something to cause physical injury. And he's stimulated by people getting hurt. He gets off by them getting hurt. Amy says he's insane.
And then has a great face as it cuts to
Mhm.
break.
Yeah. Is that the one you took a
Yeah.
screenshot of? I'll stick that in the video. Right here. Right there.
So now we go to celebrity chef Chris Montero, which I did not know of him.
I didn't either. And Steve's like, if you're interested in celebrity chefs, you definitely know this guy. I'm like, oh, great.
I
I
don't
can't
know
wait
him,
to see who it
Steve.
is. I don't know who that is.
Maybe a little bit, but I'm like, I watch a lot of cooking shows and I haven't
Mhm.
seen him on a competition or as a judge.
Or if
But
I
he
have, I forgot
actually
him. But
is, I mean, he's not, I mean, he's been around for a minute.
And
Mhm.
it's nothing against him. It was just the way that Steve was like, if you haven't
Steve
heard
made
of
it
him,
sound
you're
like
an
we were
idiot.
going to be seeing Wolfgang
Like
Puck.
Bobby Flay
Yeah.
or something.
He is currently the head chef at Napoleon House, which is where they had their meeting at.
Oh, okay.
Because you
Okay.
could see when Steve walks in, the rug out front says Napoleon House. So
I
did
wondered
look-
what that was.
So I
Okay.
did look him up, and that is the restaurant that Chris Montero is the head
Is
chef
he
at.
still there?
Or
No.
I believe so, because I tried looking him up.
Oh, okay.
So
I
he
cannot
did.
look
He
that up.
started off at Christian's,
Yeah.
which Megan will get to.
I'm looking at their menu right now. Napoleon, way more
Mhm.
affordable.
Oh, really?
They have po' boys, alligator sausage for $13.50. I tried alligator. It was so gross. It was very, very chewy.
It's not done well.
Seafood gumbo, a bowl is $12.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Desserts, a cannoli, $7. That's pretty standard. I mean, they're a lot more
That's
friendly,
a lot more affordable. Yeah.
affordable. Not friendly. You're right, affordable. Anyways, I digress.
Anyway.
So it's just rare for this podcast. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So Chris got his start at the restaurant before Vessel, so Christians, and that was the one that we touched on at the beginning. So in the early 1970s, I'm sorry, AP.
I just was like, ooh, creative name in an old church.
Yeah,
Christians. I
Christians.
had to look it up to see if it was Christian apostrophe S or Christians or Christian, like it belongs to a guy named Christian,
Mhm.
or if
Yeah.
it was a place for Christians, but it is apostrophe S.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is
that's what
apostrophe. Yep.
the closed captions said. AP,
Yeah.
if you would know.
I looked it up, so
I know.
if you
I'm
do
just
research, you
teasing
find
you.
it.
I'm just teasing.
I looked it up too, even though it was in the closed captions, because I didn't trust it.
Yeah, the closed captions can frequently get things wrong. Wish of
But
air.
still, it's definitely a play. Like you knew what you were doing.
Like, did you
when were
spend
naming
30
this.
seconds on that name?
Even if your name is Christian and you're like, ooh, I just bought a church and I want to make a restaurant out of it.
Mhm.
I'm naming it after myself.
So in the early 70s, a prominent restaurant family known as the Galator family purchased it and they converted it into a restaurant. And Chris actually said he worked there in the early 80s.
Mhm.
And my notes say for about a year, Christ worked there, which is fitting. If it's a converted from a church into Christians, it is natural
Christ
that
works
Christ
there?
would work there. Yes. I meant Chris, but I added a T.
She added a T.
Oh, I see.
And he would bring out water and turn it into wine, and people
Yeah.
would go, Jesus Christ, I just wanted water.
Could you make this white?
Yeah, reds with the tannins, they give me a
Mm.
headache.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the restaurant had begun to wane in popularity, and then Katrina hit in 2005, and that was the end of the restaurant. And I did not realize it had been almost 20 years since
Yep.
Katrina hit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was, oh my
Yeah.
God.
And I love Steve goes, what was Katrina like? Really?
It was really
Steve,
fun,
did you see
Steve.
the news?
It was a great time. They said no drinkable water, no gas in the city, no electricity. Everything was flooded. Then we go to Amy outside and she's hearing people yelling and crying like in a panic. She
Mhm.
feels pain, loss, suffering, and so many people are feeling devastated. And this is where you really see her like head in her hands, just really
Mhm.
struggling, which I'm sure there's a ton of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
the
go
way
back.
she said
Chaos
that,
and
she was
I
like
know,
so
but
like
yeah,
just
she said people
devastated.
are devastated.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I have it in the transcript, and the transcript has the timestamp.
Mhm.
Every one of those words is 2 seconds apart. So
I'm
you know what I mean? So she
Yep.
said it like that
So
so slowly because she was like
mhm, overwhelmed.
feeling
Yep.
it. You could tell she was feeling it.
So then we talk more about Katrina, and the restaurant was in one of the worst affected flood zones. Chris said there was approximately 8 feet of water in the streets and 4 feet of water inside the restaurant.
Can't
He said
imagine.
after the storm, Christians was used as a gathering place. And then they talk about the incident at the hospital,
Yes.
which was a short walking distance from the restaurant. Because there was no electricity, standing water, like no drinkable water, 19 patients in intensive care died.
Yes. However, I will interject here and say if you want to hear more about this story, I believe it was the charity hospital. When I looked up hospitals that were near that area, it was 2 miles away. So a 7-minute walk. Well, they said 7-minute walk, but I think it's a little bit more than a 7-minute walk. It'd be a really
Depends
fast
how fast
7-minute
you
walk.
walk.
Yeah. But the charity hospital was covered by Karen in My Favorite Murder, episode 390. It is a
Okay.
very well done episode.
It is.
It's
I listened to
very
that one too.
heavy, but it talks about how the doctors and nurses saved as many patients as they could, any way they could. And literally, somebody had a canoe. Somebody had brought a canoe because they were going to go do something after work. And they had a freaking canoe that they were able to help get babies and
Mhm.
families out of the hospital. And so I don't really want to dive into all of the
No.
history of that. So somebody else has already done it
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's done well. So I highly encourage you go find that episode
Yeah.
390.
Yep. I'll link in the show notes. That was a good one.
And then Chris said, as of this recording, it is still abandoned and there's still
Yes.
standing water in that
Ugh.
hospital.
You imagine the mold and shit that's going on in there?
Well, just I mean the cost to even knock it down to
Yeah.
because it obviously it's condemned,
Right.
but then it like part that makes me anxious about some of these is you get all these people that want to go in and investigate all the abandoned places. And if that's got
Mhm.
standing water in the basement still, that is so structurally unsound. But you
Yeah.
know people are going to go and do it because we had people go and do it in grain bins and
Mhm.
grain elevators around here. And then
That's a great idea.
and then
Yeah.
they wonder why they get hurt or
Mhm.
they
Or
get
die.
or their families want to go after the building owners. And it's like, no, it was all
Mm-mm.
posted.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of information that says don't go in here and you enter at
Mhm.
your own risk if you do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was definitely there's a lot of
Yeah.
heavy history
That was
there, which
tough.
but you
Mhm.
can explain why Amy's seeing people on gurneys. They were using
Yep.
every mean and mode
Mhm.
possible to get people out
Bless them. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
a hospital that was on higher ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
Like they were taking turns begging people, like breathing begging, where
Mhm.
they were because they couldn't run any of the respirators. So they
Mm,
were going for hours and
Electricity.
hours without
Jesus.
sleep to make sure that they got air to people when they could. And I can't imagine decisions that had to be made in
Oh,
order
yeah.
to
Oh my God.
get
Who do you save, the kid or the mom?
Mm-hmm.
right.
The
Those
dad or
kinds
the
of
mom?
things. Yep.
The grandpa or the mom?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
yeah.
So
And Amy
thank you
sees
to
people screaming and yelling and
Yeah.
Horrible, painful
fighting.
death.
And she says, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah.
quick thank you to all of our first responders
Oh,
out there.
God.
Oh
because
yes.
Yes.
all the shit that they go through on a daily
Daily.
basis, not
Daily.
to even throw in all the other
And
fun.
all
And to be
the
screamed
hospital
at and
workers who had to
yelled
work
at
during
and-
all this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. My mom being one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she said it's like a little riot.
Mhm.
She said there's so much pandemonium. She can't make sense of it. She said the living people would feel sick. They'd feel nauseous. There's just so much chaos going on.
Mhm.
So we go back to Steve. He called, when I first get into town, I make a call to the local detectives. And he heard back from a retired detective, Ronald Ruiz.
Ruiz.
They don't ever say his name, I don't think
No.
so. So September 5th, 1941, Louis Reuter Sr. received a phone call that there's trouble at the house with his son. So he leaves his place of employment, goes to the house with 2 co-workers, sees his son, Louis Reuter Jr. So Junior was 24 years old. Junior sees Senior, fires at him multiple times. Senior struck 3 times. I say Senior struck twice, 3 times. What, Megan? No. He struck 3 times, once in the chest, twice in the abdomen. And before this, Junior had been committed to an asylum 3 separate times. And this is when our buddy Steve goes, oh, this kid's kind of a nutbag.
Kid's a nutbag.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
So Senior,
JFC Steve.
yeah, Senior dies. And Junior also, before this, had been cut out of Senior's will.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve goes, oh, he's a nutbag. And also he's probably pissed about the money. I'm like, Steve, can you be a little PC? Just a little bit? Can you just
a little
try?
sensitive? I'm sure he's thinking the guy's a murderer. I don't give a fuck what I call him. Which I mean, I've felt that way in sometimes too.
But this time, he has mental ill issues.
I know, and by saying that about him, people with mental health issues feel that that's the way.
Yeah,
they are,
and that they're not
seen, and they shouldn't be. So,
yeah. So even though Senior died, he did not do any jail time due to his mental illness because a judge determined the son. Yeah, Junior, not Steve. Junior couldn't tell the difference between right and wrong, and he was sentenced to time in a mental facility, but it is unknown how long he served. So Steve was like, he could have been out in 5-10 years. Yep. Thanks. So then
I don't know,
Amy,
have you heard about asylums in the 1940s?
I'd rather not dwell on it.
Oh, that's bad.
Probably worse than jail, honestly. He probably would have wished for jail.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
So then Amy sees a young guy. He's so shy, twisted up inside. And I was like, oh my God, Amy, that's so poetic. Young guy, so shy.
Tied up with regret.
Twisted up inside.
Yeah.
He feels regret. He's not accepting responsibility for anything that's happened. And then she said she's getting a fight and horrible pain on the left side of her stomach. She's not sure if it's stabbing or a handgun, but it was done by another man. So I don't know if she was getting both Junior and Senior, if it was only Senior.
Because she said one man on man, like one man on another. But it's really interesting where she was like, yeah, he's tied up with regret, but he's not taking any responsibility.
Right. So what does he regret?
Right.
He's probably, I think if it's anything like how the story went, that he probably regrets that he killed his father, but doesn't take responsibility because I am a nutbag and I couldn't control myself.
To quote Steve.
That is not what I would call him.
I know. That is not what any of us would call him. Okay, so now we get to the library, and I'm just like, oh my God. So Steve is going through a card catalog, and he's got a fucking magnifying glass on, like, cartography papers all over a table. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I wanted water, not wine. Like, he didn't do any of that. Fucking card catalog, Steve. You probably don't even know how to use a card catalog.
Dewey Decimal System, baby.
Yep.
Dewey.
I remember learning that in school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So then we go to local historian Diana Shorts. They never said her name, so I don't know.
Shortes? It's Shortes. So who knows if it's Shortes?
I loved how she said Baroness's name. I was like, oh my God, that is beautiful.
And she didn't even say her whole name.
No. Mm-mm. What's her whole name?
Her whole name is, I have it. Hang on. I gotta scroll down. Yeah. Do you have 20 minutes? Because it's real long. It is Michaela Leonarda Antonia.
Yeah,
Michaela. It's spelled Michaela, but it's Michaela. That's how she said it. Because I wrote it down phonetically.
Michaela.
Yeah. Michaela.
Isn't that what I said?
I swear she said me. More of a me, like me.
Michaela.
But
nonetheless, it's beautiful.
Leonarda Antonia de Alamonester Rojas y de la Ronde Baroness de Pontalba.
That's easy. I
Yep.
hope she didn't have to sign like, can you imagine buying a house today with that name?
Even if she just put her initials,
Yeah.
MLATAR.
Write out an anagram with that. She was born in 1795 in New Orleans. Heir, although I said here, heir to the Almonester fortune, which I don't really know what that is. They just said the
Her father was
Almonester.
very rich.
Dad was a
Yeah,
real
he was
estate,
rich.
like real estate mogul
Tycoon.
type thing. He was in an article that I read that's linked actually off of the Vessel website. He was 59 when she was born. His wife was 26.
That seems good.
Yep. And he
I'm
died when
not-
she was 2 or 3.
Probably because he was fucking old.
Heart attack.
Heart attack. So at 16, Michaela married her French cousin, Celestin Pontalba.
He's got
And
a long
she-
name too, but I'd have to scroll all the way back
And
down.
he
to
was
find
He's
it.
20.
not worth it.
No.
He's
20
not
at the
worth talking
age
about
of
his whole name.
marriage.
He's what?
He's
20
not
years
worth
old.
his whole
He's
name.
20. Okay, so they were both quite young.
Yes. Arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Which
Well, at 16, she
and
should
I
have
don't-
already had at least one kid. So like,
She
she's
should be on
old.
her third marriage by now. I don't think a lot of this is his fault. I think it's his fucking
no,
father's
it's
fault.
his father's fault, but he did jack
He-
shit to stand up for
yeah,
her.
in the
Well, he was wimpy, remember?
That's
in
what they
the-
said. Didn't he call him a noodle?
He called him a noodle, and then she said,
And too weak-willed to protect her.
So this guy's basically a noodle.
Yeah, he's a bit of a weenie.
yeah, in the article, there's a lot more. He does conspire with his dad a little bit more.
"Oh, does he?"
So he is a noodle.
I kind of assumed that he was. That's why I called him fancy. I kind of assumed he was like possibly gay, and they set him up with his cousin
Oh, yeah.
as he wasn't going to find a woman.
See, I went with
On his
more of
own.
it was the arranged marriage to keep keep fortunes going and that kind of stuff
Keep it in the
because
family.
and also mom
Gross.
was, as far as we know, mom was single at the time because dad had passed away very early on.
Right.
So speaking of her mom, she was a badass bitch, and she maintained that Michaela would maintain half of her fortune. So the dowry was half of her fortune to the family, and then she would maintain control of the other half. And her father-in-law, Joseph, was not too pleased with that.
How dare a woman have my money?
Mm-hmm.
He spent the rest of his life trying to
take it.
extort the other half of her money. It got bad. And the reason he did was because, as we mentioned earlier, the property that they're investigating was part of the fortune that she had and she maintained control of. He could have collected rent on the property. So that's why he really wanted that part of it. But she was a fighter and she won all the lawsuits. So when that happened, he was like, you know what, you guys, I'm fine. Just you've won the lawsuits. I'm done. I'm just going to let you live in peace. I'm going to be fine. Just kidding. He locked her in a chateau for 2 years,
Mhm.
solitary confinement, alone, just by herself.
So I
Um,
do have the article up that gives us a little bit more information. He was affectionately known, the husband was affectionately known as Tintin.
Okay.
They were married October 23rd of 1811 when she was actually 15 years old. So they said, so shortly thereafter, the couple moved to Paris.
Mhm.
The marriage was full of conflict. Celestine's father, Joseph, wanted control over the inheritance. They did produce 5 children.
Oh, they
and
did.
3 sons lived to adulthood. Yep.
Well, at least she gave him some sons. I mean,
Yep.
thank God for
So
that. That's the
the
only
mother
good
had
thing
only-
she did.
She had only contracted a small portion of the money to be used as a dowry. So this article does not say it was
Oh,
half. It was a
yeah.
smaller portion, which is
Okay.
probably what pissed Joseph off even more.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So in 1830, Michaela defied her husband's orders and traveled to the United States. Upon arrival in Washington, D.C., she was invited to the White House. There's rumors that she had a torrid affair with President Jackson. And upon her return to
Uh-huh.
France, she was locked in a room without contact to household staff and shunned by Tintin's family. And the goal was
Not
to
the
cause her to
family.
forfeit her vast fortune to
Right.
the Baron. Nearly
But she didn't.
Nearly 23 years to the day of marriage, on October 19th of
My
1834,
birthday.
he attempted to murder her with 2 pistols. He shot her 4 times in the chest.
You're taking all my stuff.
And miraculously, she survived, though was permanently maimed, which they didn't really talk about.
They didn't talk about that.
They
no.
did just say that she survived, but they didn't
Yeah.
say.
Nicked an artery.
Which then they said it oozed. And I'm like, the arteries usually spray or
They
like
spurt.
spurt.
Yeah.
like veins ooze because it's not high pressure arteries are
Mhm.
higher pressure moving through the system. But her husband, she tried to divorce him numerous times. They said she divorced him in the episode. She did not divorce him. She tried,
Mm.
but they
I
lived
thought they said
separately.
she separated, but
No, they
legally
said
separated.
divorced.
They said
They said
divorce.
divorced. Yep.
But she attempted to divorce him numerous times, but the French courts had strict laws pertaining to divorce and rejected each claim. Her husband attempted to ruin her reputation by publishing excerpts from the court proceedings. She was able to turn the tables on him, however, and that he did not have her best interests as a wife in mind. By tarnishing her good name, he violated their marriage or oath, and the court finally allowed them to separate but never formally divorce.
Nice.
So she took 2 sons and left and moved back to
the
Louisiana.
United States.
But
Yeah.
she took care of him through his life.
Gross.
That's why she's buried back in France.
Yeah. So she died at 78 and she's buried next to her husband and father-in-law. And then Diane says, I suppose in death, all is forgiven. And I said, the fuck it is.
Yeah, I did too. I said, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And then all of her buildings, she had architects redo a lot of the buildings that she owned because they were derelict. And there's a lot of letters carved AP. So for Palisade Arms, which is what her home was in Louisiana. And so she also had a bronze statue of Andrew Jackson sitting on his horse, which is the focal point of Jackson Square in the area. So she commissioned that.
Maybe she did have a little thing with him.
It's too bad she had poor taste in that guy. And this article, I just want to credit really quick, is The Haunted Librarian, and it's the Baroness by Tragedy, her name, and then Baroness by Tragedy.
Yeah, that was a good article. I have that in the show notes, so
Yeah,
you guys can check it out.
it's fantastic.
Yep.
So then the last bit is Amy sees the lady in red again. She said she's from a long time ago, 1840s or earlier. She came from money, was married at one point, then something happened. She told Amy when they came in there, and I'm not sure if Amy meant if when they came in the dining room or if when they came in the restaurant itself, but somewhere around the vicinity when they came in there, she came in there for safety. So the woman in red came into the building for safety. She
I
said
thought that she came to the area for safety, like she was running in life. She ran from her husband and her father-in-law.
Oh.
So that's how I
that makes
interpret
sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. And then she said there's a connection between her and the jester guy. And she said she had a bad experience with him. He did some really, really bad things. And then she says, quote, do not trust men because they are bad and they will hurt you or kill you.
Mhm.
And then we go to the sketch.
I saw several disturbing things on my walk,
Mhm.
but 2 stood out.
But 2 stood out, the jester and the woman in red.
Yep.
So now we're at the reveal. And I said, Alec and Eddie look like they're related.
They do.
Because they do.
Look like
they
brothers.
look like brothers. Yep. So she starts with the outside. She said lots of residual energy and it's filled with sadness. She said Amy saw people yelling and crying. She got a lot of illness. She was nauseous, had trouble breathing, seeing people on gurneys. And then Alex says when he goes out there, he feels exactly the same way. And then that's when Steve talks about the history of the church, the restaurant, Katrina, the hospital a few miles away, how the room they're actually in was under 4 feet of water. And then Amy said a very long shit.
Yeah,
it.
shit.
Mhm.
There was at least 17 eyes.
Yeah.
At the very least, but 1 T. So then she talks about the jester. She said he's dressed strangely. The best way she can describe it is as a fancy jester. He was from a long time ago.
Which really
She
means that the
said-
jester, Joseph, followed her from France.
He may have spent some time there. Right? Because didn't they live there when they got together and then they went to France?
When she first got married, they came over and got married in the US, and then shortly after they moved over. She
Yeah.
and Tintin.
Tintin. She did say 1820s. She said
Okay.
he was from quite some time ago. I would say like 1820s. I don't like this person at all.
And then he feels like he's still the owner. And she said her concern is that this person is completely insane. He can make them see and hear things that aren't there. Living people might see him, and his focus is on females, potentially pulling a chair out so someone would fall on their ass. And then that's when they talk about how a customer fell flat on the floor and had to be taken away in a stretcher, which I was like, damn, that is a fall. Unless it's like
Yeah.
an elderly person.
Yeah, could have been.
But I was
Well,
like,
I think I
taken
told you
away in a
guys.
stretcher?
I think I told you guys the story about when I was at a concert, and it was for a musician that I've been following for 30 years. And so, of course, it was all people my age or even older. And there was a lady in front of us that
So
passed
started
out.
at 5, done at
Yeah.
6.
No, it was late. We were all so
Early bird
tired.
special.
Oh, we had dinner at 4. And but this
We took
lady
a nap beforehand to make sure we were awake. I'm sorry, Amy.
this lady in front of us passed out twice.
Oh,
Just crumpled right at my feet. And then they had to take her out.
Someone was high and didn't have enough water.
That could be. I mean, she
Hydrate,
was older than me,
hydrate.
let's just say.
Mhm.
But she appeared older than me. I didn't ask her how old she was.
Then they talk about the critic in the water, which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Alec talks about burners and Amy goes, "This is bad."
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, "I had a sketch done and holy shit, this sketch is fucking freaky."
That
It was
looked to
so
me like
scary.
Native American. It looked like a Native American.
Oh,
look
it
to
didn't
me.
look like that to me.
Oh, I thought it did. I think it's the hair.
It looks like a zombie Gaston.
Yeah.
Yes. But the little smirk of the mouth,
The smirk.
it was so freaky to me.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that's what I did.
Ooh.
I'm going to kill your fucking stupid fat ass.
For those listening and not on the video version, that was her cat.
He's making quite an appearance today.
He
is locked
is.
by between you and the screen, or between you and the camera.
7,000 times. I hate him.
Several times, yeah.
Sorry, he messed my notes up.
This is the guy that wants to hurt people. He wants to embarrass
Yes.
people. He wants to humiliate, make people feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
La la la. And then Amy talks about the female.
Yep. So she said she's most worried about her, dressed in red from head to toe. And she said Amy felt like she was maybe 1840s, came from money. She'd been married. Something bad had happened and changed her significantly, which like every woman ever. She said someone tried to make her disappear. And that's when Steve talks about Michaela Pontabla. And she, her history, her father-in-law tried to kill her. Then he killed himself. And then Alex like, I feel cold air coming through. And I'm just like,
it's the air conditioner, buddy.
It's the dogs. They lick me and then they breathe on me.
Funny enough, air works in currents, and you have things like convection currents. And if it's warm, it rises and then it gets colder. And there is slight movements that happen.
She said she hates men. She likes to hit, punch, pull hair, push them, anything to get them away from her. And she said the concerning thing about her is that she has shadow beings with her and she wants to work with them to get rid of people. And like we said, these things were never human. And so they're just hanging out with her and they've partnered together. They're doing actually a daytime reveal, which I don't think they'd ever done before, because they have to open the restaurant. So she shows them the sketch of the woman with the shadow figures. And to me, they kind of look like upside down bats almost.
They're weird. They look like they're dripping around
Yeah, it looks
her.
like they're drops of water, but because they're not fully formed into anything, but they're like these big, giant, like teardrops. But yeah, I can see where you get the bats hanging from the ceiling because it's skinny at the top and
So one thing she said that I remember that I did write it. So Steve asks if it's safe to open up the restaurant. And she says she doesn't know because this woman in red, the Baroness, has partnered with these shadow entities, but they could go rogue and get a conscience and become super destructive if she loses control of them. So that's where the real danger lies is they're doing what she wants them to do for now, but that might not always last. And if they do get free, it'll be chaos and destruction, which should be the name of this episode. So can they stay? Amy says, yes, you will need to do things. And she said it'll be very labor intensive up front. So first they're going to need to take care of the jester, get a male physical medium, very big and very strong and assertive to, quote, put him in his place and remove him. The next, you're going to want to bring in a strong female medium to remove the Baroness. And once the Baroness leaves the place, the church, then the shadow entities will move outside with her because they're attached. And then the female medium will be able to take care of her. And then she's like, with the patio, there's a lot of residual that needs to be dealt with. You need to bring in a psychic. Like she said psychic so weirdly.
Did you notice the closed captions called it saw cake?
No, I didn't.
SAWCAKE. Saw cake.
Psychic, like psychic, to show them how to do a psychic cleansing. And then that same person will do a proper, Brittany, blocking, put up a barrier to prevent anything from coming back in. And she said this is an active location, so they'll forever have things that are coming and going. But she said it won't ever be this bad once they do those steps.
If they do
So then-
those steps.
Huh?
If they do those
If
steps.
they do those steps, yes. So then we have a video update. And they said before the team came in, every single day was a challenge. And she said, or sorry, not she, Alex said they followed their advice. They're still looking for one more medium, but he said they have a couple of leads and they're confident they'll have something soon. And the activity has calmed down.
Mm-hmm. Amy P has something to say about this.
Yeah.
And I think
So-
she's right.
I put behind there, but which one? Which medium did they not get? Well,
Female.
I have a quote, and this is from, again, another article that they linked on their website. It's WGNO.com. It's News with a Twist, Hometown Horror Stories.
I did
About
see that
Bessel.
one. Yeah.
The quote is, as it turns out, having such a stylish and influential spectral visitor is not such a bad thing after all. We want the Baroness to stay because this is her land. She's such an influential person. She owned this and she can add a lot to help us be successful. I felt she pulled me to this building. The way things turned out, I was drawn to this building because of her, says Alec. And another article that I read said they've had problems mostly with male employees, so they hire mostly women, which just feels like a way to say this is how we can control.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's very sexist.
That is the way that I read that a little
Mhm.
bit, like, oh, well, if she doesn't like men, we'll just hire women and then we don't have to pay them as well.
Yep.
They can rely on tip money.
So
Oh, the restaurant industry is so fucked.
Yeah.
fucked up. Yeah.
But I just, when I read that part of it, because I know that Amy had already watched this part of the episode, and I was like, I don't
Yeah,
I don't
I think
find
you're right.
this.
I think you're right. I think they didn't even bother to find the psychic to get rid of the Baroness.
No, I think they did the rest. I think they got rid of the jester, and I think they had somebody come in and do cleansings on the patio. But that
Mhm.
also means that those spectral things are still with her. Those shadow
Yes.
things are
Mhm.
likely still with her. And then you talk about the reviews that they've had and the, issues that they've had. And there was a lot of stuff that they've had high turnover. And it's
Mhm.
like, I thought you said you were cursed.
By dumbness.
Yeah, I think a lot of their issues are of their own making.
Yeah.
From what I can tell from the articles and reviews that I have read.
Mm-hmm.
But
So that
it was
was it.
definitely a great episode.
It
though.
was
a great
Good
episode.
pull, Meg.
yeah, good job.
It was
that
good.
was a good one.
It was really interesting. I liked it
Yeah.
a lot.
yeah.
Greg being a skeptic, not a skeptic.
Oh, thank you. Because I did forget I was about to wrap up. So
Sorry.
wrap it up. Wrap.
Wrap it
Um,
up. Cut it out.
The other day we were walking through the dining room on the way to go downstairs,
Mhm.
and he goes, "Why is there a handprint on the dining room table?" And I looked and I was like, I didn't see it at first. What I saw when I looked at the table was, like when you put something hot
Mhm.
or wet on a table and it leaves like a
Yeah.
white-ish mark. I saw that and I thought that's what he was talking about. He's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. There's an actual handprint and you have to get in the right
Oh, the
Spot,
light. Yeah.
exactly to see. It's a handprint like this in the middle of the table, in the center of the table.
So no reason for there to be a handprint
No
there.
other prints anywhere around it. And I was
Not
like,
like you put your hand on the table to put your your shoes on or
no,
something.
it's like you'd have to
Wow.
have at least one leg on the table
Yeah.
to get your hand there.
Wow.
And so then I was like, is it really is it in the dust? Because it's not, it's not super polished or anything. We don't wash that table that often. And so I stuck my finger like at the back part, the
Mhm.
heel part of the hand, and drew like this, and you could see that little squiggle I made. So it really is, there is a part of that
Mhm.
table that does not have the dust on it that the rest of the table has.
Really?
Whoa.
And
That's
then
creepy.
I thought it was super weird. And Greg's the one that pointed it out. And
Yeah.
he was like, this is really weird.
And was it either
Skeptic?
size of either of your hands?
It was about the size of mine.
Okay.
And then just today, and I haven't told Greg this yet, just today, I'm walking around outside and I look down and I see what looks like a glove that maybe has been like unearthed after all the snow or something
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
And I get closer and I look at it, and it is a piece of the giant tree we have. It's part of the bark that came off, landed on the ground right in front of me in the exact shape of a hand.
Really?
And I'm like, this is two hands I've seen
Yeah.
this week.
Maybe.
So I took a picture of it, and then I went upstairs and tried to get a video because I haven't cleaned the table. I
Mhm.
went up and tried to get a video of the table just so I could see the handprint. And I could still see the handprint, but you have to like really get in there at the right angle, and the light has to be right and everything. So I don't think my
Mm.
video turned out very well. But that second hand, now if I
Yeah.
see a third one, I'm gonna flip out. Okay, I'm trying to get a video of this handprint that's in the middle of the table, and I'm not talking about the white misty stuff. That just looks like something was put there that's burnt, but it does sort of look like a handprint. But if you look at the right angle, now I'm just seeing shadows everywhere, but if you look at the right angle, you actually see, I don't know if you can see, there is actually 1, 2, 3 and a half darker spots right above the crease. Right there.
Maybe reach out to Zoe for some.
Oh, maybe,
See,
yeah.
what do you got, Zoe? What do you got going on?
Got anything handsy
Hey,
going on over
Hey,
here?
don't
didn't you-
get handsy with me.
Like, well, I was just thinking
need
about
dinner
like what are
first.
things that you've had a hand in or done something,
Oh,
and you recently got rid of your mom's van. You sold that,
true. Yep.
Hand
and
in a
that
van.
was, like, is it your dad like giving off a like, thanks
High
for
five?
taking care of her, getting
Here's a
that,
hand.
just or just like being like really like literal. You've given a lot of your time and yourself.
Helping hand.
Mm,
Mhm.
mm.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's just
I say
it's-
reach out to Zoe.
Yeah, I'll see what
Mhm.
she says.
But yeah, I'm just
Yeah, it's cool though.
curious
So I'm
if-
waiting. I'm waiting for the third hand. Because I think it's always happened in threes. So I
Right.
assume there's going to be a third hand somewhere.
Or maybe a foot.
Maybe a foot. I'll send you guys the picture of the.
Yeah.
I can send you the video too
Yeah.
of the table, but I don't think you're going to be able to see anything. I couldn't really see anything. I could see it with my eyes, but I couldn't see it when I looked at my phone.
I'm
Mhm.
glad you could see it with your eyes.
Yes.
As opposed to your ears.
My bare eyes, I meant. But yeah.
I'm sorry you left that open and
Everybody, AP put her sassy pants on today. So
No, I would have walked into that. I mean, I would have done the same thing as you.
hope
just
you're
like
okay.
walking into a spider web.
No, that is.
Oh God, in our old house, we used to have a spider that would build her web
Charlotte,
every night. Yeah, we called her Charlotte because we're so creative. On our porch, and you wouldn't have to walk through it, but you'd see it because it was on the part where you didn't
Mhm.
walk through, but it was
Mhm.
anyway. Every morning we would get up and there was elaborate web, and it was
Mhm.
so cool. And she'd be sitting in the middle of it. And
I
then she'd
love
ride.
I love finding
Nemo.
like big spider webs out in the when I'm out in the woods and stuff,
Yeah.
and the light glinting off them.
Yes,
It is the
especially the
coolest
dew.
thing.
If there's dew on
Yes.
there and the light hits it, oh my God, it's amazing.
I call them don'ts.
Well, when you when you can see them, then you don't walk through them.
Yes.
Yeah, but that means there's a big fucking
Yes.
spider around.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No, she was real good at catching her dinner, and it wasn't going to be us. She was big though. She was
Mhm.
she was probably the size of like a digit of, half of my thumb.
Gross.
Yeah. she was
Which
a big
in
girl.
in Minnesota terms is a large spider.
Yeah. Yes.
In Megan
we're not-
terms, it's a tarantula.
yeah.
We're not Australia. I
We're
mean,
not Australia, so not that big.
we don't
okay.
have legit tarantulas, but
No. I mean, people have them as pets, but they're not roaming free, I hope.
we need to stop talking about this because I feel them on my feet.
Okay. So That's it today, guys. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
That's all, folks.
And next week, we will be meeting with Leah Marie. You may remember her from our episode number 77.
She's our shaman.
Yep, our interview with a shaman.
I can't wait to hear about her travels.
She has gone on this amazing trip, and
Mhm.
she is going to tell us all about it. And it's all about her learning about other cultures and spirituality stuff. And
Yep.
she's so fascinating
Oh,
anyway.
Yes.
And then, we're friends on Facebook. And so we've been seeing her pictures
Mm-hmm.
and just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And
Yeah.
hopefully she'll let me use a couple of the pictures in our video version. So we're going to be talking with her next week. And we're excited to do that.
Yes.
And then we are soliciting. Soliciting. That's a good word. I wrote looking, but soliciting makes me sound a lot smarter. We are still soliciting listener stories.
Yes.
So please either email them to us at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or hit up our website
Mhm.
at theactivitycontinues.com and leave a message there. There's a little icon of a microphone that you can click and speak right into as long as you got a microphone on your phone or computer, which on your phone you do. Or you can type a message to us there too. So we want to hear your stories. We want to do another listener story episode soon because those are always really fun.
Mhm.
So thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.